like, yes, but now what about his loot? This is what they did with Hezbollah. Immediately went from Nasrallah to the guy who replaced Nasrallah to then the guy who replaced the replacement of Nasrallah. And it's not like anything has changed all that much. So that's the unfortunate reality.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we already know the answer is going to be they're not going to take the W and say, okay, we did it, let's move on. But, you know, this is something I'd love to talk to Jeremy Scahill more about because he's interviewed some of, Hamas members and members of Palestinian Islamic Jihad as well. But, you know, my general understanding is that Ismail Haniyeh, who was the head of the political wing of Hamas, who was previously assassinated by Israel while he was in Tehran, actually, in Iran, that he was more, you know, I know it seems preposterous to talk about a moderate wing of Hamas, but he was more interested in a diplomatic solution. He was less enamored with some of the more sort of like, you know, terrorist or violent activities that Hamas has in particular engaged in, not only on October 7th vis-a-vis civilians, but in the past with regard to suicide bombings. And so he was someone that you could more easily work with and imagine coming to a diplomatic solution. Sinwar, more of the hardliner. And there had been some reporting, I don't know whether it's true or not, but that he was thinking again of, hey, we need to, you know, get back into the suicide bombing business. And so if he is now taken out as head of Hamas, who knows who fills that vacuum and what the ideology is coming next, you know, what version of their ideology it is. In any case, we'll keep an eye on it and, you know, see if this is ultimately confirmed. Right now continues to be a big question mark. What is not a big question mark is that Israel continues with their offensive both in Gaza, also in other parts of the region, but most specifically in Lebanon. We can put this images up on the screen. This is a video of just the detonation of an entire residential neighborhood in a southern Lebanon town. You know, hard to imagine this being really like a precision strike to get the baddies in Hezbollah when you just, you know, wantonly destroy an entire village. So that's what you're looking at there. We also have some domestic news, some new revelations about, you guys recall there was that effectively pro-rape riot at a torture facility. They call it a detention center for Palestinian detainees, where soldiers who were accused, and I mean the evidence is all there, I think to even give them the benefit of the doubt at this point is very generous, who were accused of raping a Palestinian detainee. The military police came in to arrest these suspects, and there was a massive revolt among his fellow soldiers, but also among a bunch of right-wing groups, including Likud party members and ministers. That's Benjamin Netanyahu's party. Ultimately, you know, after huge backlash, they, you know, they had to take them to different facilities. It was a wild scene. And now we're learning new details. We can put this up on the screen, that those soldiers, not only did they protest their fellow soldiers who were, again, accused of raping a Palestinian detainee, not only did they protest, but they also attacked those military police investigators. They also held them at gunpoint and barricaded themselves with the suspects to try to keep them from getting arrested. Military police has witness testimonies to the assault. It has not, though, been investigated on the grounds that the assaulted soldiers are afraid to officially complain, even though in its aftermath, some of the investigators involved stopped fulfilling operational roles and one stopped showing up for reserve duty. So these are also, you know, people who are in the military police, who came to arrest these individuals accused of grave crimes with quite a lot of evidence. And the fellow soldiers take out their weapons, barricade them in rooms, assault them directly. And there's been zero investigation into any of this because effectively, you know, the government, certainly a significant part of Israeli society, supported the side that was like, we think it should be fine for soldiers to rape Palestinians and there should be no consequences.
Oh, yeah.
Just a wild sign of where the society is.
The inside of it is totally crazy, especially with that riot that would happen. And then now the actual internal like efforts to police it is crazy. They literally attacked the military police for arresting him. You can't even imagine what this would look like in the U.S. military or for our discipline. I mean, it would be a total destruction of like chain of command, of justice, of everything that they pride themselves on, the professionalization of the force from My Lai on, it's just absolute madness. Like, and think even, look, Abu Ghraib was shameful, right? But there was a lot done to make sure that something like that never ever happened again. This is the opposite reaction. This would be like if they got away with it, and worse, that when they were arrested, that the people there actually turned and sided with those who were at Abu Ghraib.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's wild to comprehend. And then the fact that they're, you know, basically the government's like, oh, we're on the side of the people who, you know, took out their weapons and assaulted the military police trying to do their job and investigate these people and bring them into detention. Yeah, it tells you a lot. Let's go ahead and put this next piece up on the screen. This was quite an interesting opinion piece published in an Israeli newspaper, Haaretz. The author here, Yitzhak Brink, Major General Yitzhak Brink, served in the Armored Corps as a brigade, division, and troop commander, as commander of the IDF military colleges. For 10 years, he was the IDF ombudsman. So this is no, you know, anti-Zionist, pink-haired lefty on a college campus. And the headline is, Israel will collapse within a year if the war of attrition against Hamas and Hezbollah continues. So, you know, this is a person who's very invested in the future of the Israeli state who is sounding the warning. He says, I assume Defense Minister Gallant already understands the war has lost its purpose. Israel's sinking deeper into the Gazan mud, losing more and more soldiers as they get killed or wounded without any chance of achieving the war's main goal, bringing down Hamas. The country really is galloping towards the edge of an abyss. If the war of attrition continues, Israel will collapse within no more than a year. Terror attacks are intensifying in the West Bank and inside the country. The reservist army is voting with its feet following recurring mobilizations of combat soldiers, and the economy is crashing. Israel's also become a pariah state, prompting economic boycotts and an embargo on arms shipments. So, you know, we've seen some, is he right? I don't know. But we've seen some signs that, you know, they've got real problems. There are more and more countries who are saying, we're not going to ship you weapons anymore. You have the U.S. doing, I don't feel like it has much credibility, but this letter from the State Department saying basically like you got to shape up with regard to aid, or, you know, there may be consequences. They're already sending signals that like, no, actually there won't be consequences, but the U.S. sending that letter, I mean, it is something. And certainly the Netanyahu government is fearful that if Kamala Harris were elected or even post-election, that Biden might feel he has a freer hand to take some sort of actions against them. But more to the point, we've seen businesses pulling out. We've seen Intel was supposed to go forward with some significant investment in the state that they backed down of. You have an incredible burden on society from these multiple wars that they're fighting and constantly trying to escalate. And you even had a letter from some 130 IDF members who said, no, if you don't go and get a hostage deal and bring home the hostages and have a ceasefire, like we're not doing this anymore, we're going to refuse to serve. So the cracks are certainly showing, and so it's not preposterous, this assessment from this individual, especially when you consider the numbers of Israelis who have said, yeah, I've thought about leaving and I've taken some steps to investigate what that could look like.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what to make of all of these developments and what the Biden administration really will do after the election. They have multiple different opportunities about what to do and which policy. You know, for example, the Obama administration allowed some critical resolutions against Israel to go through the UN Security Council after the election when Trump was coming into office during the transition. So they could take that. But I mean, all signs don't currently indicate that right now. I really don't know which way it's going to go. As for Sinwar, while you were talking, I was just making sure. Still don't see anything right now. Barak Ravid says 3 Israeli officials say one of the bodies is most likely Sinwar. They will have to wait for DNA and fingerprint analysis. They say that Israel has both his DNA and his fingerprints from the time that he is in prison, so they'll be able to know relatively short. So
it'd be crazy for him to just be like out and about.
I mean, it's kind of mad to be not tracked, to be out and about with 2 bodyguards. I mean, it also, frankly, I mean, in terms of the Israeli intelligence machine, what does it say about them? They've been telling us, like, he's underground.
Oh, we know exactly where he is.
We know exactly where it is. He's surrounded by hostages at all times. You know, this is like, so which one is it? I mean, frankly, what he was doing is probably the smart thing. You actually want to keep a low profile. You don't want a bunch of guys around you. They're probably looking for the hostages more, so you don't necessarily want to be around them. And the fact that he got caught on the ground, like walking out in the open, is kind of insane. for it to be the literal leader of Hamas. But maybe we'll learn a little bit more about it. They basically got him by accident, it looks like. This was no bin Laden style operation.
Yeah.
If it is 100% him. Gotta catch that.
So one quick update on that letter that I referenced before from the Biden administration to the Israelis was trying to put pressure on them with regard to the horrific lack of aid in Gaza in general, but northern Gaza in particular, where no aid had gone in the month of October whatsoever. We could put this up on the screen. So the IDF and the State Department, this is per our own Ryan Graham, are both claiming 50 aid trucks have